Okay, sir. First of all, a very good morning to respected chairperson, respected fellow scientists and fellow participants and fellow faculties. Myself, Kankana Lekharu, Assistant Professor, Department of Geology, Namrup College, Dibrugarh. And on behalf of my co-authors, Satabdi Bishwas, Assistant Professor, BP Soliha College, Nagarbera, and Dipsika Mohan, Assistant Professor, Department of Geology, Gorgaon College, Sibsagar. I am very pleased to present before you a very interesting yet attention-seeking topic, which is the coral reefs under threat, possible causes of coral reef bleaching and its impact on ecosystem. So, in this whole presentation, I am going to discuss about what are the corals, what are coral reefs, and what is coral reef bleaching and how it is impacting the ecosystem functioning. So let's move to the first slide. So here, in the first slide, I am giving a statement which is the small footprint and enormous ecological value. So why I am saying is that the coral reefs actually occupies only very little portion of the ocean floor, which is less than 1%, and but it occupies but it provides habitat and shelter and food and nursing habitat and breeding habitat for approximately 25% of the marine life species which are associated with reefs. 25% means about 4,000 plus of like fishes and other reef associated species are documented in reef ecosystems. So these coral reefs matter a lot because it helps in the food and livelihood, because in socio-economic, if we see in the socio-economic sense, then we can say that reefs are also associated with fish production in the fisheries. It also, these are very beautiful that when we see in the, if we search in the Google about the coral reef, then we can see that these are very, this can give us very recreative pleasure to our eyes. So it is very related to tourism, and also it also gives coastal protection, because the coastal regions are protected by these reefs, because these are very enormous structures which are very hard structures produced by the corals. And this is very important to biodiversity, as I have already told that it gives shelter, feeding, nursery and breeding habitat to many organisms. So now, before going to the whole thing, first of all we have to know what is coral. So corals are actually animals and not plants they are, and they are included in the phylum Cnidaria, which actually the same phylum which includes sea anemones and jellyfish. And then, so now the coral algae partnership. So actually the coral polyp or corals are in association with the symbiotic algae, and symbiotic algae, which is actually in traditionally geological name is the zooxanthellae, but it is a photosynthetic system symbiotic algae. So when these two are in a relationship which is the mutualistic relationship, then the coral polyp actually gives the symbiotic algae the carbon dioxide, nutrients and shelter. At the same time, the symbiotic algae also gives the corals photosynthetic products and many energy-rich compounds. So this is a very profitable mutualistic relationship to both. So what the algae provide? Photosynthetic carbon and other compounds that help fuel the coral host. At the same time, the coral provides them with shelter, nutrients and many other. So now why bleaching is serious? So let's move to the next slide. So why bleaching is serious? Because bleaching is a stress response, not the same thing as immediate death. Because sometimes we misunderstand it as the stress response, death with the stress response. So I am attaching here three actual conditions where the coral bleaching is showing the coral bleaching phenomena. So the first one is healthy. When under the healthy condition, there is normal symbiosis. The coral will be in symbiotic relationship with the algae in a very normal healthy way, so there will be normal pigmentation, there will be normal energy supplied by the algae. But in the stress condition, when there is excessive thermal light other stress photosynthetic machinery may get disrupted. At the same time, oxidative stress will be rise, and then the bleaching will occur. So symbionts lost means how does bleaching occurs? The symbionts lost or expelled corals appear pale white, energy supply falls. So now one of the most important stress that produces bleaching is the elevated sea temperature. So when the sea temperature rises, this photosynthetic stress becomes very high, that reactive oxygen species increases, and at the same time the symbiotic damage will be there, energy supply will be less, and as a result the growth and reproduction will be very low and mortality risk will be very high. Not only the elevated temperature of the sea, but some of the major causes that contributing the stressors are ocean warming, excess light or UV, pollution and runoff, sedimentation, ocean acidification, overfishing, disease and outbreaks, salinity. So these are some of the major causes that are contributing to stressors. So I am again linking you all with the main coral concept with this stressor is that we are actually studying, we have to be concerned about the coral reef bleaching because the marine habitat is largely depend on the coral reefs. So now when one factor at a time like heat or light or pollution or disease or overfishing, when one at a time will affect the coral reef, then it is not that type of concern. But when these all are in cumulative or synergistic manner, these multiple stressors affect, then coral reefs may go very deteriorating, and as a result the biodiversity may decrease. So from bleaching to ecosystem level impacts. So going pale or white of the coral is not the major concern, that the coral reef bleaching is happening and the coral reef is going pale or white. This is not a major concern. But the concern is that how bleaching is affecting the ecosystem. Why this bleaching? We are so concerned about the bleaching phenomena that affecting the ecosystem. So when bleaching occurs, coral stress will be there. Mortality of the coral cover will be means high, and then so living coral cover will be less, and then habitat loss will be there, and as a result the ecosystem effects will be there. The ecosystem effects may be biodiversity may loss, then fisheries may in fisheries fishes may lose their lives, coastal protection will become very weak, and tourism may affect us socio-economically. Now coral reproduction. So what you mean by coral sexuality? So this is I think you all are concerned that why I am attaching this slide, but this is also relevant to the topic because corals have both sexual and asexual type of reproduction. So sexual reproduction, as we all know, the phenomenon gametes unity, then union, then fertilization, then larva, then settlement. In asexual reproduction, these are some of the types which are budding, fragmentation, clonal growth. So sexual reproduction in coral, main patterns are broadcast spawning, brooding, sex expression, these are. But these are actually, I am not going to discuss about this sexuality, but why coral reproduction matters to bleaching. So why this coral reproduction matters to bleaching? So bleaching can affect not only survival but also the capacity of the corals to reproduce and replenish reefs. So like if the symbiotic relationship with the algae or other any crustaceans or any marine species, if this association weakens, then not only the coral will bleach, but it will affect the reproductive ability of the corals, that may lower the reproductive ability of the coral. So if coral reproductive ability will be less, then there will be decline in the population of the corals, which ultimately results in the weakening of the marine ecosystem. So in a current global context, according to NOAA, Coral Reef Watch status update, up to June to 2026, 84.4% of the world's coral reef area experienced bleaching level heat stress from January 2023 to September 2025. So which is a major concern, because 84.4% is not that less. So it is a very major concern, and 83 plus countries and territories where mass bleaching was already documented till now, and fourth rank global mass or coral bleaching event on record, likely ended in 2025. So this is a major problem. This data is not just numerical data, but it is a very major concern, because in this rate, if it is happening year wise, then we can expect that marine biodiversity will greatly lost, which are depending on the coral reefs mainly. So conservation and management priorities. So now we know that why coral reefs should be protected or conserved, but what are the management strategies? So first one is the mitigate climate change. So reduce greenhouse emissions, limited marine heat stress can mitigate the climate change. Then protect local water quality. Then monitor and forecast resilience building, recovery support, and reduce direct reef pressure. So these are some of the management practices that we should do for conservation of these coral reefs. So these are some of the summary that I have already told, and so these are the references, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhavana, for your nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
The session is open for discussion.
Okay.
Any queries or questions from participants?